evening. So my topic today was, what if you live across a graveyard? Is that bad feng shui? Is it? I think I asked Dr. Zhu that question because a lot of books you read says feng shui of a graveyard near that area is bad. And why do we say it's? Why do they say that it's bad? Is because our image of a graveyard is kind of spooky. And for example, if you watch, like Michael Jackson's Thriller and then the zombies come out, I mean, those kind of things are frightening. And I think sometimes in the West, some of those graveyards are dark, and they've got these big, heavy stones and they're a little bit spooky. So that's why we think a graveyard is a scary place. But there are really beautiful graveyards too that are, green grass and just bright, and there are plaques in the grass instead of heavy stones. So every graveyard in every country, how they, you know, have their graves it's different. And some are spooky and some are quite pleasant. So I think it's your perception of a graveyard. If it's kind of has a nice feel to it, it's not scary. Um, so it's not necessarily bad and it's not necessarily good. And I remember when I asked Dr. Zhu this, he says graveyards are something that are interesting because feng shui began as a way of where to place your ancestors' bones, and that they would look for an auspicious place to bury the bones of their ancestors because they believed that in an auspicious place, the descendants would live a good life. And if the bones were left in a very inauspicious or bad place, then their descendants would live a very miserable and they would suffer. So it was very important for the family to find a really good place to lay their ancestors. And so it became, that was, the beginning of feng shui, and that's what they believed. And so it. He said they would climb the mountains and look for a really good spot, and they would, search where the energy was good. And when the energy was good, they would bury the bones there. And so it was very different from what we think of as a graveyard today, where it's a designated space. Then we have our gravestones, and then, there's enough space for people to walk around. But okay, let's say in Japan, they have these heavy stones and there's like Japanese, writing on it. And there's not much greenery. It's more kind of rockery around the area. It is not very scary. In Hawaii, actually, they're quite beautiful. They're like grass and rolling hills, and there's just plaques many times just in the earth. Sometimes there's a stone, but because it's very green and they have lots of big trees around, it's quite pleasant. I've been to graveyards in Europe, and again, it depends on the place. Some of them are a little bit spooky, and usually they were near the church because at the church grounds they would put a graveyard. So is the feng shui good or bad? Well, it depends. Depends on that environment. But also, Dr. Zhu said a graveyard has two ways of looking at it. One is, oh, you're going to die soon. And so it's bad energy because it's the energy of death. And the other way of looking at it is, wow, life is short. And if life is short, it's really important for us to live a full life and to try hard and to work hard and to enjoy life while we're alive. So make every day count. Make every day special. Don't waste your life. We're only given a certain amount of time on this earth. And so walking by a graveyard every day may be a good reminder to say, hey, life is short. Live fully. Do the right thing. Be hardworking and follow your dreams and follow your passion and be good to everybody and live a good life. So there's two ways of looking at the graveyard. It could be, but if, I don't know. For some people, it can be a scary place where death is nearby. I don't want that kind of energy. While to other people, it could be a different type of energy where it reminds you to live a good, long life. So it's the way you take it. It's not necessarily good or bad. And don't forget, energy is not really good or bad. It's just energy. We decide if it's good or bad. Energy is just energy. It's like if a plant grows, it's not like, oh, that's good energy and that's why it grows, and that's bad energy and that's why it doesn't grow. That's how we do it because we're humans and we make everything, clear for us. But in nature, it's just energy, right? And it's a just different kind of energy. So if we look at it in that way, then a graveyard can be good and a graveyard can be bad, and it's just the way of our perspective. So if you live near a graveyard and it doesn't bother you, then that's fine. But if you're the type that it bothers you, it frightens you, then maybe that's not a place for you. Maybe it's better to find a different place to live. So that's something you can think about. So tomorrow I'm going to be talking with Justin again in Puerto Rico. We usually try to talk about maybe it's about 7:30 my time and about 4:30 or 5:30 his time. Puerto Rico's 3 hours behind us. Oh no, are they? Yeah. Oh no, ahead of us. Ahead of us. So if it's about his, what time is it? 5:30, 6, 7, 8:30. So about 4:30 or 5:30, when Justin gets off work, then he goes home, and then, we try to figure out a good time for us to talk. So if you do have any questions, please post them in the group and we will address it when we meet tomorrow. Okay, folks, have a good evening and see you tomorrow. Good night.